Write it down, people. Write it down. Go ahead. Write it down. Factoring. Factoring. Write it down. Do you know what it is? No? No, you don't? Of course you don't, because we haven't seen it yet. Factoring is the reverse of the distributive property. So it gets a fancy phrase, a fancy word, factoring. It's something you will see a lot of. Distributive property, a lot. Combining like terms, all the time. Distributed negative, all the time. Factoring, oh my goodness. At the same time, this is really the first time you're hearing all this. So it's going to take a little bit of time to process because there's a lot to go along with it. Let's show you what we're after here. When we think of the distributive property, we think of a number that's up against parentheses, and it gets multiplied to everyone. Well, because it's the reverse distributive property, we're going to do the opposite. So the opposite of multiplying to everyone is to divide by everyone. So here's how this works. You got to come up with the biggest number to divide by. What's the biggest number that I can pull out of 72 and 8? In other words, what's the biggest number you can divide 72 and 8 by? And you say, yes, 8. So because we are dividing by an 8, that's who goes on the outside. We open up our parentheses. What do you multiply the 8 by to get to 72t? Well, 8 times 9 is my 72, so there's my 9t. And remember, just like your distributive property multiplies to everyone, you need to do your division to everyone. So we take that 8 and we divide it by the 8. In other words, 8 times what number gives me 8? It's a 1, and there it is. I can quickly check my answer by doing the distributive property because I should get back home safely. 8 times 9, 72. So there's my 72t. 8 times 1, there's my 8, and we are set. All right? Factoring, people, reverse distributive property. All right? We're using some division. Check out D. Who can you divide by? Who can you divide by? All right? Watch what happens if you say 6. Now, 6 isn't the right one. It's not the biggest one. That doesn't mean it's not the right one. But watch what happens. If I choose a 6, well, what do I multiply the 6 by to get to 36? Well, it'd be 6. So I got a 6z. What do you multiply the 6 by to get to a 72? 12. There we are. Now here's what we want you to notice. There's still more to divide by. What can you divide a 6 and a 12 by? Well, you can divide them both by 6, which means you've got to pull out another 6 that's there. So here's the way I recommend that you do it there. It can get a little bit confusing about who to organize. So if you can pull a 6 out and you already pulled out a 6, what is 6 times 6? 36. There it is. Yes. So I'm going to take the 36 out. What do you multiply the 36 by to get the 36z? Well, just a z. Technically a 1z, but remember, we don't put the 1 that's in front of it. And what do you multiply 36 by to get to 72? 2. So there's my official winning answer. So if you don't grab the largest, there's more work to be done. All right? Let's look at letter F. What can you divide both of them by? Well, you can divide them both by a 3. So the 3's on the outside of the parentheses. 3 times what is 3r? R. 3 times what is 3s? S. So there it is. There it is. All right. Let's see what else we got hanging out down here. All right. Okay, factor. All right. Again, you see that phrase there, factor. It's what we'll use. So now I've got 3 of them to deal with. All right, larger numbers, not a big fan of it. What do you think? What do you think? What do you think? And this is where you're kind of combing through stuff. Now, if you're not sure, you just use someone, and then you have to see if it works again. Did you? I thought 12, but then I had to think 24 for a moment. But 24, 48, 20, no, that's 70, that's 60. So yes, let's go with 12. All right. What do you multiply 12 by to get the 48j? 4j. What do you multiply 12 by to get the 60k? 5k. And what do you multiply 12 by to get to 24? Simply a 2. Hey, we're done. And the reason why I know we're done is I see a 4, I see a 5, I see a 2. What can I divide them all by? Nothing. Nothing. I mean, 1, but remember, 1 doesn't change anything at all. All right? So, sometimes what we have to do is we got to kind of clean some things up here. And we're going to skip some of these because we only use the factoring with our variables. So, no to you, no to you, no to you. All right? Let's go to letter F. Let's simplify first. I know we need to factor, but we really can't do factoring until we simplify. So x times 3, 3x. 5 times 3, 15. Now we can factor. So now we're at the same position we were in the previous set of problems. We can divide them all by 3. So 3 times x is 3x. And then 3 times 5 is my 15. Now I've got myself a winning answer that's there. So again, you might need to kind of clean things up a little bit. Sometimes you can notice it right away. For example, in G, do you see the x plus 5, the x plus 5, the x plus 5? Well, you could actually just jump right to this. All right? Now, I'm not a fan of it. All right? I'm not big about all these different techniques, but in case your mind went there, I stick with the simplifying first because it's consistent. It's one set of directions to follow. Simplify first and then factor. So if I combine the x and the x and the x, I get 3x. I combine the 5, and the 5, we get 15. If you notice, it's the exact same problem as before, so we can divide them both by 3. Let's look at letter H that's there. Clean things up, people. Clean things up. 2x, can you do 5 plus x? No. There's no subtraction involved, so it's just a 2x plus a 5 plus an x plus 5 times 2. Well, that's a 10. All right, let's clean things up here. I do have some like terms, the 2x and the x. That's a 3x. I've got a positive 5 and a positive 10, so that is a positive 15. And hey, now, we can factor now that I've simplified. Yes, same problem as before. We can divide by a 3, and hey, look at that. We are getting the same answers that are there. So again, simplifying is something that you're going to have to end up doing from time to time. And away we go here. Okay, so let's get a few of these that are in here that just kind of pile in. They're good things to talk about. What's the opposite of negative 6v plus 1? Well, if we're taking the opposite of something, that negative sign is going to be out in front. So what we need to realize is, hey, we've got to take the opposite of everything. So we are distributing the negative. All right, so it is a 6v minus a 1. That's our official answer. All right. Let's go down to example number 6. And again, what we want to be careful about here is, look who's there. Look who's there. Yes, that subtraction sign is out there lurking in front of the parentheses, all right, causing problems. Hey, we got to distribute it. We've got to distribute it. All right, so I've got a 5a and then minus an a, and then, negative, positive, there's a plus 3b. So now I can combine some like terms. Remember, this is a 1a. There is 1 that's there. Even though we don't write it in, it's there. And now I got myself a winning answer that's there. All right. Let's see if there's anyone else we want to be after. Let's go after letter O here. This one, we'll make this the last one. Looks a little bit interesting here. And the reason why it's interesting is because that negative sign is there. All right. Yeah, we got to multiply it to everyone. Or like we said, distribute it. So I've got the negative a, and then that becomes a negative a, and a negative make a positive b. All right, so if you need to, and I don't mind you doing this, this is not my answer. This is the work to get to my answer. If you want to slip in those 1s that are there, now you can see when I combine them, I get a negative 2a, and then plus the b. So if you find that helpful, that's fine. Do that. That's part of the work. That's part of you organizing things. All right, so like we said, factoring, reverse distributed property. Yeah, using your division skills, all those type of things. People, I got to get out of here. My ride's here. I'll see you later. All right.